So today I'm going to show you guys how to make a flower crown out of daisies. This one also has a little bit of clover in it. So start by picking yourself a handful of daisies or other wildflowers. Daisies are one of the easiest ones to work with. If there's any extra stems, wind them around themselves. And then you want to make a little slit towards the end of the stem, not all the way to the end, but just towards the end, just a little slit so that you can stick the stem of another daisy in there, pull it all the way up to the head, and then you'll do the same thing to that stem, making a little split in it and sticking another daisy stem through it and pulling it up to the head. And you won't need too many daisies to get around your head if the stems are long enough, so you'll only need about 3 or 4 usually. You want it to be about 1 inch longer than the width of your head. And so once you've got that figured, just make a large split in the end of the daisy stem and pull that over the head of the first daisy carefully so you don't knock over any petals. And so here's the daisy crown base. And then I'm going to stick the first daisy where I wrapped around that extra stem. And then you just wrap the stems right around. When you get to the parts where the daisy heads are in the stems, wrap both of those so that'll keep the split strong so it doesn't keep splitting. And you just keep sticking in the daisies. Now that you've wrapped one, you'll have another stem to stick that in between the 2 stems there. Try to keep the heads going the same way. And then you just wrap that stem all the way around until you get to the end. And each stem will make it just a little bit longer so that you'll always have some place to stick in the next daisy. And some of these I wrap to the right, some of these I wrap to the left. It doesn't really matter. The reason I alternate the way I'm wrapping is because the daisy heads will kind of turn depending which way you pull them. So I try to make sure they all stay facing the same way, so that's why I see which way, whether I need to pull it right or left to keep the heads in alignment. And so you just keep going. You get into a little bit of a rhythm once you get enough daisy heads in there, and the pile of stems gets thicker and makes it stronger. So you can go all the way around with daisies, or you can add in other wildflowers, which I'm going to do now with some wild clover blossoms because they're nice and purple and add a little extra pop of color. You do this the same way, just sticking the stem in between the stems that have already been wrapped, and then just wrapping that around as well. The clover stems are a little bit shorter, but it's the same technique. You just stick it in and wrap the stems around themselves. And I'm alternating the daisies and the clover because I kind of like the way that looks. And so you just keep going until you get to the very last flower, till the whole thing is full. Again, I'm just alternating the clovers and the daisies. The clover stems are a little bit thicker, so I don't like doing full clover garlands because they're kind of hard to work with, but I like alternating them. So when you get to the very last one, stick it in like you would any other, and then you're just going to very carefully wrap it in between each of the flower heads, taking care not to rip off any of the petals. Just wrap it between each of the flower heads, and then when you get to the very end of the stem, you're just going to tuck that in between all the other stems that have already been wrapped, and that'll secure itself, and then you have a nice sustaining flower crown. And so I've got the daisies and the clovers on one side, or you can do this the full plain daisy crown if you like that better. So these work great as fairy crowns. And then of course this one is reversible, so you get the daisy side on the front, but if you do the alternating one, then you get the clover and daisy crown.